Fostering connection through authenticity, the People Pleaser podcast validates struggles, celebrates growth, and inspires positive change.
Together, let's embrace vulnerability, challenge patterns, and evolve with compassion. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the People Pleaser podcast. I'm Cindy.
Hello, it's Corey.
And we're so happy to have you back with us again today. Corey, how has your week been?
Well, considering it's Monday, so far so good. I've been really appreciating just for everybody to know that we have been getting together every week and really dialing in our intention and our efforts with the podcast. So that's been a really exciting way to start the week. Weekend wise, I don't know. I was kind of consumed by a paper, which definitely was triggering some of my anxiety, some of my fear-based thinking. So I feel like I worked really hard this weekend. But I mean, that is the beauty of being on summer holidays. I have a little bit more autonomy over my schedule. But yeah, doing good today. Didn't sleep the greatest, but yeah, I'm just happy to be here. How are you doing? It was your birthday.
It was. I had a fairly introspective birthday, so I feel like I am experiencing quite a significant shift right now, and I have just made a commitment to myself as my birthday gift to really step into my passion, my gifts, my desires for my life. And I've kind of set this 2-year window. It was my 58th birthday, so I'll be 60 in 2 years. I can't even believe I'm saying that because I still feel 25. But kind of set some goals for myself that by 60 I would have like to celebrate my 60th year with having accomplished a few things. So really just focusing on putting aside fear and reservations and really just stepping into those things wholeheartedly. And I feel this sense of just, I'm done and tired with getting in my own way. So stepping past that. Yeah. So it's exciting. It's a bit scary, but it also feels really exciting. And even this is part of that. Like, us doing the podcast, I think for both of us is a lot of that, driving a lot of that force and excitement and passion as well. So thank you for that, because you've been a part of inspiring this.
Well, it's been mutually inspiring, and we've been having lots of conversations, and I think if you're tuned into anything astrologically or energetically, like there's so much being shared about the precipice of change and action and power and strength and creativity, and there's just so much that feels really awakening and really inspiring. And yeah, I feel like that is just the most exciting place to be tuning into and to be really listening to and to be open to the possibility, whether you follow astrology or, the moon cycles or whatever guiding force. I think for me and for you, we've talked a lot about just the permission of this period of time. I mean, you have that 2-year to 60 kind of marker in time. I'm turning 40 this next month. And I mean, we're both Leos, so let's be honest, like that's a huge part of this. But just like honoring our strength and honoring our wisdom and just that, like, I don't know, I've just been thinking so much about how much energy I have given to my anxiety and the rules and the limits and just how to my people pleasing. And if I could just even take a fraction of that and put it towards the possibility, the freedom, the choice, the purpose, I just think like even just switching slightly out of one energy and into another is going to actually have a really profound and remarkable change. So we really want to get into that more at a later date. But yeah, that's just been something that's been really a through line and a force in this podcast, and just our coming together and joining forces and holding each other accountable for like the life we want and the people we want to be.
Yeah. And I think another real beautiful thing is we just seem to be so in sync always on those. Like we really, I think part of the effortlessness of coming together for this podcast for us has been, we just are so aligned on so many things, you know, 18 years apart in age, but really experiencing such similar things, similar feelings, and just both really feeling just done with the limited thinking and restrictions. And just, we were saying earlier, I feel like this bridled colt that just like wants to run free and break free from all of this. And that's a really exciting and possibility laden place to be. So
yeah. And I think we give each other permission, you know, like it's like I think that's true to any like deep connection or like true connection, where you can really lean on each other to show up authentically and vulnerably. And in doing so, you're being honest with not just yourself, but with someone else as a witness to that. And there is a certain accountability and permission that comes with just showing up in that way. And so I definitely feel us talking the talk and learning how to walk the walk. And it's scary and exciting and also reassuring to know that we don't have to do it alone anymore.
Yeah. I think that's a huge piece of it for both of us. We were talking the other day about, you know, wanting to do all these things, but doing it with someone it's so much more meaningful for both of us. And I think part of that is the witness and the co-creativity and just not feeling alone in it and bouncing ideas and feeling heard and seen. So I definitely feel like that's a part of the excitement. But anyway, with that, why don't we launch into this episode?
What are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about nice versus kind. So we've talked lots about people pleasing and what's driving that, and fear and making everything feel good. So I thought today we'd just start with the actual definitions, the difference in the word. So the dictionary defines nice with words like pleasing, agreeable, appropriate, fitting, respectable, pleasant, delightful, enjoyable, pleasing, good, satisfying, pretty. Kind is described with words being of a sympathetic or helpful nature, gentle, to give pleasure or relief, affectionate, loving, compassionate, benevolent, thoughtful, humane, and gracious. So I think that society nowadays has gotten to a place where we really interchange those words as almost having the same meaning, and they actually could be more opposite in a lot of ways. They both have a feeling of like, they can both have a positive connotation. Those words.
Right. A good intention.
Yeah, but I think when you really look at them, especially in the context of people pleasing, they don't necessarily have positive connotations, and they're quite opposite, right? So for me, when I look at the definitions of nice, they are very external, superficial, you know, like we talk about trying to make things okay and safe, like smooth the icing over and make things okay. Whereas kind is a much more internal, moral, character bound. You're operating more out of a belief system, I think. And I think it's just much more internally rooted in who you fundamentally are as a person, maybe. And nice feels like manners, right? It's performative, it's expectation, societal, to fit into society, and not a core value.
Yeah. And I have to really admit, I've not given the distinction much thought. Very much of the mindset of like, oh yeah, I want to be nice and I want to be kind. I want to be those things. I hope that I am those things, without really thinking about like what that actually means, what that actually looks like, and how it actually feels. And I think that we are taught to be nice at a very young age. It is very much a manners things, like your please and thank yous, and being nice, being a good friend, being nice. And I do think that just the creation or the concept of manners in itself is very like appeasing, very like performative, like, okay, we're going to grandma and grandpa's and you're going to be nice, or, you know, you're going to school, you got to be nice to your friends. And it's, I think there are nods to like the values of being kind, but I think often what it looks like is putting on that, like that smile and like the grinning and bearing, the like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this because it's the expectation or because I have to. And I often think about, or a perspective or kind of an awareness I've had is like, you really know when someone is just smiling to be nice versus someone who is smiling because they are kind. Yes. A nice smile they'll be smiling and then they will not be smiling. And it's like, you can tell that was just like a forced, I'm putting on this performative smile. Whereas like a genuine, kind smile, a joyful smile, a happy smile, like that lingers, that turns into like more than just a flash of a smile and then back to normal kind of thing.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I would say too, as a HSP, I can actually have a sense of ick in my body when it's nice. It can feel uncomfortable. It can almost feel yucky. Like
it's like the pleasantries.
Yes, I can often feel if someone's like, to me, nice is inauthentic almost, right? Whereas kind is an authentic action. So I can sometimes in those environments feel that it's not kind and it's just kind of superficial and it can kind of feel icky. And, you know, we're also talking earlier about how it's the same when we act out of those though. Like nice doesn't actually feel good. When we talk about as a people pleaser, like we talked about when we leave a situation and we perseverate about what we said and what we did and did we offend people, that happens in moments that we've been nice. That doesn't happen for me in moments where I've been kind. If I've been kind, I don't go home and replay the scenario. It doesn't sit with me.
It's not cognitive.
I'm not replaying it. I feel good about it. When I've been nice or when it hasn't been maybe as authentic, that's the times that I am perseverating and ruminating on what was said. And, I hope I did this right. I hope I didn't offend them. You know, that typical people pleasing replay loop that we get into. Yeah. They're so very different.
Well, a lot of people these days talk about their social battery and how they need to recharge after social interactions and how it's like, my social battery is waning. I need to like remove myself from this situation. I wager to guess that if you have such a taxed social battery, it's very likely that you're more in the space of that performative niceness, that people pleasing, that behavior management type behavior than you are actually like rooted in genuine curiosity and care and connection. Like to me, there's a real difference in how I feel after a performative managing others interaction where I am truly just trying to be nice, do the right things, say the right things, like almost prescriptive. Yeah. Whereas if I am just in a genuine connection where there is just real care and curiosity mutually, then that will actually charge my social battery. That will give me life and energy and motivation and, you know, all of these other things. And I don't feel drained. I actually feel brought back to life by the interaction.
Well, and there's science behind that, right? So we talked a couple episodes back about the negative effects of stress and people pleasing on the body and the hormones and heart and muscle tension and all that. There is studies that being kind, it is restorative. It is, it does build. It does, it does have kind of an accumulative effect, right? When you're kind,
It's
it spills out onto others. And some of the positive effects of being kind, contrary to the negative effects of people pleasing, are that, you know, it increases our dopamine level. So it gives us that natural high and we feel better leaving those interactions. It releases oxytocin, which in turn affects how our health operates. And oxytocin's reduced free radicals. So there's that health benefit. It slows the aging process. It improves relationships, which decreases stress, and it's contagious. Like there's proof studies that kindness is contagious. So I think about, I've been in a car lineup, like a drive-through, where someone, a stranger in front of me, purchases my order, right? You cannot help leave that.
Pay it forward.
Yeah, and you cannot help but leave that feeling good. But the first thing I'm thinking every time is, how am I going to do this? How am I going to pay it forward, right? So if being kind, like being nice, people don't always leave that interaction feeling good, right? You leave feeling drained. Like you're talking about your social battery, right? If you're out and you've been kind, you leave feeling charged and good and uplifted. You leave depleted.
Nice. Well, and I think boundaries do play a role in that, right? Because you can be nice and be neglecting your own needs, your own boundaries. You can be self-abandoning to be nice, to show up in that like performative, people-pleasing way. But then you're actually not being kind to yourself, and it is depleting.
In those situations, is it kindness or is it people pleasing too, right? Because I think when we feel that yuckiness, that's kind of an indicator.
Yeah.
Like I can honestly say, I don't remember a time I've been kind that I feel icky, right? So if that conflict is coming up, then that to me is an indicator that I, you know, some reflection here. What is the motivator? Why am I doing this? The other part to that too is that kindness is not always easy. Sometimes kindness is being a truth speaker. Sometimes kindness isn't always good, fluffy, wonderful, make people feel good. Sometimes doing the hard thing, right? Yeah. So if you have a situation where you need to speak to a friend about a hard topic, but being a good friend is talking about that topic, it's not necessarily going to be easy. Is it kind? Yes. What would the people pleaser do? You would avoid having that because there would be conflict and it would feel uncomfortable, and then you feel resentment, and then you feel the stress, and then every time you see that friend, you're going to have negative feelings of, you know, just this toxic spiral. Kindness, stepping into having that hard conversation, even in doing that. So I've had a situation where I've had to do that with a friend, knowing that it might possibly alter the friendship,
right?
But fully 100% feeling convicted that the kind of right thing to do is to have that conversation. And also getting to the place that I don't have the control over what that person's response is to what I'm saying. If I know that I've been kind and loving and gentle in delivering the message, then I have to be okay with what the outcome is, right? So that thing too, that isn't always easy.
No, and playing nice is often avoiding discomfort.
Totally.
Like doing the nice thing in that example would be pretending like everything's okay, letting it slide, you know, just like appeasing. And we often think that's preserving the relationship, or that's, you know, that's the right thing to do, is to not to not cause any ripples or waves in the friendship. But it's also like, it's just fluff. It's just surface level. It's just like a Band-Aid kind of solution to the underlying like core values.
It's also not true. It's not true, right? Because you don't feel good. You don't feel good leaving
Mm-hmm.
those things. You don't feel like
No.
you're not doing the best thing for your friend. You end up feeling
No.
resentful. You, in turn, often end up avoiding that person. Like nothing
Mm-hmm.
about that is true. That it's totally that lie
Mm-hmm.
of let's make it safe and comfortable and avoid confrontation, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
actually, in no way is it actually the best thing for that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, you will
Mm-hmm.
probably lose that relationship, avoid that relationship, or
Totally.
completely self-abandon and then carry resentment and anger with you whenever you're in an interaction with that person. How is that? How is that a positive, right?
Yeah.
I think that
So true.
sometimes, I think that kindness also is being a truth speaker, like
Mm-hmm.
stepping.
And I was just kind of reflecting on sort of the elementary understanding of, well, the opposite of nice is mean.
Mhm.
So if you're not being nice, that means you're being mean. And I almost think like the opposite of being nice is being
Totally, I
kind.
agree, 100%.
And I think that so much of what I've done in my own experience is I never want to be mean. I never
Mm.
want to be disliked. I don't want to be punished. I don't want to be reprimanded. I don't
Uncomfortable.
want there to be a discomfort. Yeah, a discomfort or like a negative consequence. So yeah, with that elementary kind of brain of like nice and mean, I don't really know that I've ever been explicitly taught to be kind, like in the same way that I've been taught to be nice.
I think you're
And
describing being younger and being taught manners. I think that when we're taught those things as a child, it is under the premise of being kind. I think it
yeah.
gets distorted as we become adults and it becomes
Mm-hmm.
performative and avoidant and all those things. But I do believe, like,
Mm-hmm.
when our parents are teaching us to say thank you, to share with your friend, I think at that stage,
That is
there's
kindness.
kindness in that
Yeah.
100%. It's also social norms. All those things come
Yeah.
into place. But I would find it hard to argue that there's not an intention of being kind in a lot of those things that parents are teaching us. I think it shifts when we get into adulthood and we've got trauma and discomfort. And we I think we often lose that ability to interact with people kindly.
Yeah.
Right? Stress,
Yeah.
go,
I
go,
was,
go.
yeah.
We're in our own heads. We're thinking about our own stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
kindness, I think the difference with kindness and nice for me is nice is about me. I'm being nice to make it easier for
Mm,
me. When I'm being
mm,
kind, there isn't a lot of me in it. Like I'm being kind because
right.
that's what is the right thing to do in
Mm-hmm.
relationship with other people. And that's how I would want someone to treat me, like do unto others.
Well, and it's also the natural thing to do. Like there's almost this like social conditioning that we it's almost like going back to like really really basic survival, and it it throws the nuance of social conditioning out the window, and it really strips it back to like survival, to that sort of more matrilineal, like community based way of living and surviving, where we rely on each other for safety. And right now, like I think what we speak about a lot is that sense of emotional safety, and that like being able to let our guard down, being able to show up authentically. All of that is a byproduct of
Mm-hmm.
kindness. It's not a byproduct of being nice.
No, and I, all of those things, I think, like a lot of what comes up for me in my journey lately is about reconnecting with the child, right? So as
Mm,
a child, we
mm-hmm,
instinctively know how to be nice. We
mm-hmm,
instinctively have a sense of curiosity and wonder. And all of
mm-hmm,
those things get distorted through life, right? And
mm-hmm,
how we see it and how we perceive it and how we adjust and accommodate
mm-hmm,
for it.
mm-hmm,
I believe that fundamentally, kindness is at the root of it. Nice is something we've learned, right?
Right.
Fundamentally, who we
Right.
are as humans is kind,
Mm.
innately kind, right? And it's life and
Mhm.
living without boundaries and traumas and hurts and stress and,
Mhm. The
societal
environmental.
conditioning that shifts
Mhm.
us into this nice realm. I don't
Mhm.
believe that I don't believe that that's a core, what's the word? I don't believe that's a core way that humans act. I think that's completely
Mm-mm.
taught and conditioned.
Conditioned. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a core
No.
condition. Yeah. Yeah. I think so much of my life, like really, if I'm being honest, like has been that push and pull between the two, and that discomfort, and not necessarily having the awareness or the language or the perspective to be able to see and understand the
Yeah.
difference. And I think that that's probably intentional in some ways. Like I really think about not that I've done it intentionally, but like almost as a byproduct of this like individualist way that we live, and this like nuclear way that we live. We've really separated ourselves. We've really made it like survival of the fittest. Like we're all holed up and closed off in our homes, and like there is this sort of like competition of I don't know, like of resources and of
Yeah.
access, and like niceness feels like playing the game, whereas kindness is like throwing the rule book
Yes.
out the window and being like, actually, I don't need this. I've never needed this, but I've been kind of socialized to think that I do. And yeah, it really has me thinking about the way that so much of these tendencies are like an
Mhm.
overcorrection or an overcompensation that uh, we've somehow learned the need for them, or like that perception, like we need these are serving us in some way. And I think really it's like a big nervous system response, but
Definitely.
it's ill guided.
It's so ego rooted, right? Like people pleasing is ego.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
self-serving really, with the intention of protection and safety, but it's very self-focused. Whereas kindness
Hmm.
is externally focused. So I'm reading this great book right now called The Year of Living Kindly by Deborah Cameron and
Mm.
or
Donna.
Donna Cameron. And we were talking earlier about how, so as a people pleaser and with nervous system trauma, you go into an environment, you're reading the room, you actually can get quite avoidant. Oh, I'll just go to this thing and I'll leave as quickly as I can because it's actually making me feel nervous and uncomfortable because I'm reading everyone's energy and how to make everyone, feel okay. And she was talking.
Huge
Yeah,
responsibility.
exactly. Right. And she, like, it was just such a perspective shift for me and really a return to home for me. She's talking about
Mm.
going into those environments, and there is always going to be other people that feeling exactly like you. Find
Hmm.
those people. If you see someone standing over, probably thinking, oh, geez, I can get out of here as soon as possible, go over, talk to that person, say, oh, you're here by yourself too, like connect with them and
Hmm.
find this.
The
Yeah.
most human way of
Totally.
showing up.
And she stepped
Hmm.
into being a connector. So she would talk to these people and get their story. And, inevitably, you would know somebody else that would be a great resource, and introducing these people and building that community and operating in
Hmm.
kindness. And it just brought me back to my CISV days. So for those of you who don't know, Corey and I met through an international children's organization. And I used to take children to activities all over the world. And one of my core values at the time, and we were talking about this, that if you asked any of the children that I took away one thing about Cindy that you would remember, they would say that there was never to be a child sitting alone, that my delegates
Hmm.
were to be the ones that went up and included those children and drew them in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm reading the book and I'm thinking, how have I not done this for myself? Like it's a core value for me, but my own insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
my own withdrawing, my own not feeling safe has taken me out of operating in one of my own core values.
Mm-hmm. So what would that look like for
Well,
you?
that would look like exactly what she described, walking into a situation and seeing someone by themselves and going up and approaching them and trying to make a connection. It's no different than if I'm in a group or a team meeting, I'm the one saying, asking the person who hasn't spoken, drawing everyone in, building community, making sure everyone has a voice. So why wouldn't I do that? Because I'm so in my own insecurities and my own fear and my own feeling out of place. Well, the best remedy for that is to step in and build connection. If I went
Totally.
to a person
Yeah.
that I know is probably feeling 90% sure is feeling the same way as me, is there by themselves, doesn't have a connection, doesn't know what
Mm-hmm.
to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I make that connection and we instantly start
Mm-hmm.
talking. And then the next thing happens, oh, you go sit together and then you start sharing
Mm-hmm.
conversation and building a connection, right? So how have I allowed those things to get in the way
Mm.
of doing that?
Well, yeah. And my experience in these last couple years being new to a country, new to a new town, new community, it's also been some of my busiest
Yes.
years with balancing grad school and working and my experience of anxiety and really starting to like notice my people pleasing has actually facilitated me withdrawing socially even more because the needs I have are they're so palpable. Like I know that I have needs for connection and social interactions and to be in like real embodied relationships with others and of like-minded people. However, I have assumed this role of people pleaser, of this nice person, of also a person who can really act like everything is going
Yes.
great
Yes.
and things aren't
Yeah.
going great. And so I've really pulled away socially, which has been really I've really noticed it. I've really felt it. But it's because I haven't quite leaned in, kind of sort of what you're also talking about. I haven't totally leaned in how to show up authentically in a way that is energy inducing
And
and
boundaries.
connection building
Yeah.
and boundary totally. And so I know that there is a part that is like I've again like kind of overcorrected. I've learned or I'm right now in this place of thinking like the only way to show up authentically is to be by
Yes.
myself or to like withdraw because that way I don't need to either fall into my people pleasing behaviors or face the changes that I want to
Definitely.
make in terms of not people pleasing and not just being nice and playing playing the game.
Definitely. One of the things I also realized that you kind of touched on is wanting those deep connections. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of garnered this awareness that in my helping and being a helper and a people pleaser, there is that deeper connection because people are coming to you with their vulnerabilities. Like people are very
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable with me,
Mm-hmm.
often,
Mm-hmm.
bringing
Yes.
their deepest, darkest secrets and what they're struggling with. And, oh, how can I help and how can I
Mm-hmm.
do it? So
Mm-hmm.
there's been a little bit of a hook for me there because I
Mm-hmm.
crave that. I crave that type of vulnerable, there's no reciprocity. It's not healthy. There's no boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the hook
Mm-hmm.
for me because that is what I
Mm-hmm.
crave in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. There's purpose
Yeah.
there.
And not the superficial, like the superficial converstions have always been hard for me. And I think
They're
it's
so
feel nice,
taxing.
feel nice,
Yeah.
a little bit of an
Yeah.
ick. Like it doesn't feel
That's so
authentic. It
real.
doesn't feel like a real connection. It doesn't feel vulnerable.
So how do we as people pleasers or as people who often try to manage the interactions, like we're facilitating them in a lot of ways, how do we give ourselves the experience of people being kind to us?
I truly believe that part of it is being open to it and feeling deserving of it too. Like I think on a subconscious level, we almost limit opportunities for that because there is almost an uncomfortableness, like not feeling deserving.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, how many people pleasers have troubles with compliments or hearing kind things, right? So it's being able to step into feeling deserving, believing those things of yourself. And I truly believe now that healthy friendships and connections take work, and there is an intention in them. You have to be intentional in seeking out those types of relationships. And I think that when you step into it, it just starts to flow and it becomes more natural over time. But I think definitely transitioning out of caretaking, people pleasing. You know, we've both described right now, it's kind of like that. We've really constricted our world. For me, it's, there's been a shift. I feel ready to do it. But for a long time, it's that I didn't trust that I had the boundaries not to bring in those same types of people. And I just didn't have the resources for it anymore. I was tapped out.
Oh yeah. I can relate to that a lot.
So I think that in the initial phase, there's very much an intentionality into seeking out the type of people that you want to surround yourself with. And then it just, like I said, it just becomes more natural and more natural the more you do it.
I almost think that kindness is there's an inevitable ripple.
Oh, yes.
There's an inevitable, like, there's a mutuality to it where when someone gets to experience that, they want to give it back. It becomes reciprocal. It becomes like there's reciprocity there. I think that, I really resonate with what you're saying around, I always think about my sister-in-law. We are both pretty heavily into people-pleasing kind of dynamics. And it was so hard for us because we were both trying to take care of the other. And it's like we were dodging each other's, like, nope, I'm taking care of you.
Power
I'm
struggle.
taking care of you. And it's actually a relationship that I want so deeply to have a relationship with her, but it feels strained because of the way we both are. And it almost, to me, feels like an opportunity to lean into more like curiosity and to more, and to also more vulnerability and like also sharing parts of me and also that, I don't know, I just think that sometimes we have to give others permission to tap into that depth or that intention. I really have kind of moved, not in a direct way, but just kind of almost in an emotional way or intuitive way where I've created a little bit of space and distance because it's like, I don't necessarily want it to be like a Q&A. I don't want her to be, it's not comfortable for her to be caretaking me in that way. And obviously it's the same for her with me. And so it's also like been a good opportunity for me to think about the fact that like, that's not what's needed here. That's not what's being asked of me. But it is really interesting to kind of notice like in certain relationships. I have this other friend that we connected so deeply, so quickly that it almost was overwhelming. It was like, whoa. And I, I met her during the pandemic, and I just felt I was in a very vulnerable place. Just coming out of a very, very challenging relationship. And I didn't trust myself necessarily with the depth of that relationship. And then she became a somatic practitioner, and I found myself moving even further away from her because I was like, I almost started to think of her as she can only go deep with me.
Yeah.
Like that's the only way. And now that she's in this somatic work, I was like intimidated by it. I was like, I so badly want to connect with her, but there was a part of me that almost felt like, but I don't have the boundaries to be able to engage with someone of that depth and of that that genuineness. And I don't know, like the honest answer is like, I felt like in some imaginary world, I thought I would have to do her somatic work with her, and like that I wouldn't be able to handle the depth of it or the emotion of that experience.
I think too, there's probably a component of exposure. You know what I mean? Like feeling exposed with someone that doesn't work, or that she sees that part of you, and it's exposure. And going back to your sister-in-law too, I think those situations, like, what would it feel like to let her caretake you a little bit? Because being caretaken is very hard for us, right? So what would that feel, just like a give and take? What would that feel like to move into both doing it for each other? And the other piece of that is, if we're stepping from nice to kindness would be having the conversation. Kindness would be saying, listen, I feel like we both are coming from the same place, which makes it hard. And, I'm vested in this relationship. What can we do to make space for each other? Because we're also so fearful as a society of conversation. Like just having, like even that we would label as a difficult conversation, but is it?
As a confrontation.
Is it really, or is it actually just bringing something that you're feeling and you have a vested interest in the relationship? And what can we do to, come out the other side of this and be better?
Well, and there's a real possibility that's also kind of coming over me right now, is that I'm projecting my people pleasing and my management skills. Like she actually might just be being kind. Right? And it could really just be the fact that I'm like unwilling to receive it and don't know how to receive it. And that but my motivations are more of the people pleasing, like taking care of, doing the right thing, kind of mentality. So there is like also the possibility that I'm looking at others' kindness through the lens of my people pleasing, or the way I've learned to cope and manage.
I also think kindness can be super threatening to a people pleaser. Right? I think it can feel threatening and hard to take, because that's our role. We're going to make everyone feel okay. We have a hard time accepting kindness. As compliments, kindness in general are very challenging for people pleasers, because wait a second, that's my role is to manage all this. I also think that there's such an internal dialogue component to people pleasing. So like you say, I would bet a large percentage of our situations, if we actually went to the person and talked, it is nothing like what is playing in our head.
Oh yeah.
Like, 100%. And would be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know.
Totally.
Yeah. But the amount of time and effort, you've run through this scenario in your head, and the dialogue and the time invested and the narrative path you're walking down, and it's not even accurate.
Yeah. No, that's so real.
The energy drain of people pleasing, right? The psychological energy drain is just.
Yeah. Yeah. So from a somatic perspective, what do you see as like the differences somatically when, we think about being nice versus being kind?
I think that one is detrimental and destructive and creates stress and has negative effects on all of our bodily systems. And there are studies that kindness has positive effects on our physical body. There are studies confirming that it has a ripple effect. There are lots of studies coming out right now about the benefits physically, mentally, emotionally of being kind. So we all know that when we've experienced kindness, we feel good. The person
so
doing,
true. So it's as simple as that.
and the person doing the kind act feels good. When someone is kind to me, I want to be kind to others. Right? So I think that I really feel that if we can focus on kindness and own it as a core value and really try and walk it, it will actually just in turn decrease people pleasing. Right? I don't think it's like, oh, I've got to get out of people pleasing and switch like being nice to kind. I think if you just start being kind and start assessing the situations as, am I being nice or kind, or what's the right thing to do here?
What are my motivations?
Right? That you will just gradually transition out of one. And I think it would have a healing effect actually. And there would be a release from some of the people pleasing, which the nice thing about that, and again, you and I've talked about this a lot, is not the focus on the negative and the broken. So consistently looking at your people pleasing quality. Like, yes, you always want to be reflective of what's coming up and what's driving that. But if we in turn focus on being kind, we're focusing on a positive, right? We're looking at how can we have positive contributions? How can we affect ourselves and others in a positive way, which will just kind of take care of the other stuff in some ways.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm also thinking about the expectations we put on ourselves. Expectations are often also external. Absolutely. And they're all like often something that we can misinterpret, and then they can become convoluted, and next thing you know, we're acting a certain way because we think that's what's expected of us. But if we were to release some of that expectation, we'd really just come down to like, but who am I? What's authentic? How do I want to show up? Without any of that external noise, expectation, perception, like who am I at my core? Yes. What's important to me in this situation? And I've had to do that, like even just like with the anxiety I've been experiencing over the last few days, like I've had to really play the tape, like really take that anxiety all the way to the finish line. Like, okay, so this is the narrative, play out worst case scenario, play it out. And I think we can do that with a lot of our actions or these external things, these behaviors. It's like, okay, what's at the crux of this? What's at the actual root of this behavior? Like, do we ever stop and ask, why am I acting like this? Like, that's something that I think we lose sight of, and we just kind of assume this autopilot.
Yes. And I think transitioning into kindness actually brings it back home. It actually brings it back internally, right? Exactly. It brings back to a body, moral, soul type level environment. And I also don't think that kindness doesn't mean being kind all the time. Kindness means when you're unkind, you spend time reflecting what was really going on. Like, was I hungry? Was I stressed? So
yes,
I don't want people to think that like being kind means you're perfectly kind all the time. Not either. No. It's always a journey, right? But it means remaining curious, the questions, like exploring your own behaviors. So if I have an interaction in the day where I feel like, wow, I was really short there, kindness looks like me. Why did I act that way? What was driving that behavior? And taking responsibility for it is kind. right? Not
Mm-hmm.
projecting it
Mm-hmm.
onto the other person and blaming them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all of this, it's all a journey, right? You're not all of a sudden going to become
Mm-hmm.
kind. We're always going to have moments where
No.
we lash out or act out in a way that, is less than what we would choose for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's always seeking to do better. It's
Mm-hmm.
seeking to be more in line with who you are as a person and what your belief
Mm-hmm.
system is. It's
Mm-hmm.
getting out of your ego and being curious about. So if someone is taking too long doing something or driving too slow on the road, instead of being reactionary, which is ego and
Mm-hmm.
external, go inward and think about what's going on for that person. Get curious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, gee, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they just received really
Yeah.
bad news. And there's a story actually that I heard the other day. I can't remember who it was. Stephen Covey, I think. He was on a plane or somewhere, and there was a gentleman there or train or something, and he was just letting his kids run ruckshaw up and down the aisle, and it was so disruptive, and he got so agitated. He said something to the man, and the man said, "I'm so sorry. My wife died 2 hours ago, and I just don't even know what to do with them." Well, you went from feeling annoyed at this person to suddenly feeling absolute
Mm-hmm.
compassion. Like, what can I
Mm-hmm.
do? Wanting to help.
Mm-hmm.
I would say
Mm-hmm.
probably 80% of the time when people do stuff like that, there's something going on for them. They're
Mm-hmm.
distracted, they're stressed, they're not feeling well, they're tired, they're hungry. So just
Absolutely.
I think kindness is learning to through practice, because kindness is also like gratitude, right? Kindness and gratitude are very similar and they're positive effects. They have ripple effects and they're practices that you learn and condition
Mm-hmm.
and build yourself to. So the more you
Mm-hmm.
are kind and the more you think with kindness and space, the more natural it becomes to do it, right? So instead of jumping towards yourself and being agitated, you might feel that come up, but then you start automatically getting to the point where you would be like, gee, I wonder what's going on for them today.
Mm-hmm.
How can I help?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or
Oh, and I mean, I'm a slow learner, but like really trying to do that for myself, like really trying to disentangle some of these feelings, like, resentment is a big one. Like, and what becomes increasingly frustrating and uncomfortable is that when I can really tease maybe a negative emotion, like a negative feeling apart, a lot of the time I come down to that place where I wasn't kind to
yes,
myself. I self-abandoned. I had loose or porous boundaries. So I think that's another big piece that is hard to reckon with, is that, a lot of the time, like, sure, people can wrong us and we are around, but we also have a lot of autonomy over like how we can take care of ourselves and mitigate some of those feelings. Like, there's so many situations that I've really unpacked and explored where the most frustrating part is that I got myself there. Like, not to take full responsibility, because that's not always the case, and I don't deserve to take it all on, but a lot of situations, a lot of my frustration, a lot of my disappointment, a lot of my resentment does come down to me not being my authentic self, and me abandoning myself, or not really considering myself, just really so outwardly focused all the time.
kindness also covers kindness to ourselves, right? It's not just
Mm-hmm.
kindness to others. If you're being kind, you're kind to yourself as
Mm-hmm.
well. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a large piece of it, right? Like, people pleasing, you're making it easier, but the self-abandonment piece is actually not kind or caring for yourself in any
No.
way, right? So being kind, for me, a huge component of that is actually being kind to myself, setting boundaries, having
Mm-hmm.
the difficult conversations. It's how you approach all those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I am approaching all of that with good intention, good heart, authenticity,
Self-compassion.
self-compassion, compassion for
Mm-hmm.
others. I, I just think not to get confused that kindness means not discomfort, not hard thing. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
this at all.
No,
It can
absolutely
mean
not.
really hard things, actually,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's also like trusting the hard moments, trusting that they're hard for the right
Yes.
reasons. It's not you making life unnecessarily hard. It's like, no, this is a hard situation. It's gonna feel hard.
Yeah, a large part of that too, where like if I look at a shift for me, has been communication. So conflict historically has been avoidance of conflict has probably been my number one driving force. I cannot stand it. So again, nice, take care, smooth over the situations. I'm at a place now where I do not feel at all that way. I think communication is the kind thing. I think that someone can't do better or change if I haven't shared how that's making me feel or how I'm perceiving the situation.
Yeah.
Someone doesn't have the opportunity to change, do the right thing, or even clear up the misunderstanding if you're not communicating it. So communication is a huge piece of kindness for me. I think the kind thing to do is to talk about that. And is it still scary? Absolutely. If it is met with not with kindness, is it hard for me? Definitely. So my work is in not taking it on. My work is standing in my truth that I expressed how I was feeling. What that person did with it is beyond my control.
Right. Yeah. I think that's where we avoid is that, there's this lack of control over how that will actually be received. I've almost grown wary of the word intention because it can kind of be weaponized or like used against you, used to justify the meanness of it. I don't know if that's clear, but our intentions are extremely important and valuable in how we communicate. It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to get it right. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to say all the perfect things and be conveyed exactly as we hoped to be. The idea that we can completely control these relational patterns or challenges is wrong. Like we can't, and nor do we want that responsibility. But yeah, that idea of not being able to necessarily manage how I am going to be received, even when I am coming from a place of genuine care, kindness, relationship, empathy, whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that, especially right off the bat, people are going to like that or be comfortable with that. There's still opportunities to invite people in. You have to be prepared for like all outcomes. That was a big place that I got to last night when I was up at the wee hours of the morning stressing about my paper, was just that idea of how the opposite of my anxiety is peace, and the place I wanted to get to was like peace with any outcome, knowing that controlling it isn't the pathway to peace, and hyperfixating and trying to manage it and stress about it is also not the pathway to peace, but to just like really be able to surrender to the possibilities, like all the possibilities.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier today too about, kindness also extends to, so if I'm having a conversation with someone and I decide that I want to have this conversation to preserve the relationship, having kindness in receiving how they respond to me and understand. So if it's not how I want it, maybe because they're feeling threatened, maybe because, you know what I mean? Trying to perceive their response as not a personal, not taking it personally and taking it, but also thinking, they're having a visceral reaction to whatever I'm saying or sharing, and making space for them to have their process too, you know, because conflict's hard, really stepping into that, not taking it on, like they're allowed their feelings
Yeah.
about what I'm saying too. And
It's almost like taking the conditions off kindness. Like it's not conditional.
No.
And I think if we are only giving kindness because we hope to get a desire, we have a specific outcome in mind or a specific, you know, like that's not actually kindness. That's still, there's still a little bit of a mental gymnastic component going on. So I think, yeah, like there is for me a part of kindness that is very without expectation or without certain parameters for like I would like to be kind to people who are not kind to me. I still want to maintain that kindness, that it's not actually kindness almost doesn't seem like it's about it's not about the other person. It's about you and who you are. Yeah. So like to think that some people are undeserving of your kindness, I mean, sure, there needs to be boundaries around like your energy and what you put into people, but I don't think that is exactly the right approach to think that okay, well, because you're not being kind to me, I'm not going to be kind to you. That's not, it's not really that.
There's no tallying.
That type of exchange.
There's no score sheet. Kindness.
Yeah.
You act in kindness regardless of the other person.
Just regardless.
You act in kindness because it's the right thing to do. You act in kindness because you're having compassion for the other person and realizing when people act poorly, there's always a reason. There's always a reason. It does not mean we have to accept it and take it on. That's part of the boundary piece. But people don't just act poorly, typically for no reason. Yes, there are some people that are just terrible, but even them, most of them have experienced trauma or terrible things in their life. Yeah. So I think that's really important for people to understand that kindness is not in any way connected to the other person's receiving and response. It is solely how you want to act in the world and what you think is right and fair and just. And,
for yourself.
And that's different for people too. Kindness can look different for people, right? So if you were trying to increase kindness in your life, especially if we're talking about, you know, focusing on kindness as a way to kind of get out of people pleasing.
Yeah.
A fundamental tool to transition would be creating pause. So not being reactionary, leaving space. So a lot of that would be if someone does something wrong and you want to respond, just take a moment and think about it. Is it worth responding to? You know, or can you be kind in your response? Can you shift to thinking, gee, something must really be going on for that person? Can you set a boundary and just walk away if it's something, right? Or I think it's in those brief interactions in society that it's almost easier sometimes to be kind because we don't have the same investment. It's the bringing kindness into our actual long-term relationships that can sometimes be harder, I think, right? Confrontation and there's more at stake and we slip into people pleasing way easier and it's self-abandonment with our partners and our children and our families. And you've got all the other historical triggers that are going on. And, you know, we're often give the least kindness to the people that are most important in our life and give to people that, you know, it's irrelevant. So there's a really good quote that I like around creating that pause. Okay, so it's by Viktor Frankl, and it's between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Love it.
Like a pause is a really powerful gift to yourself and the relationship. With kids, the teenagers that I work with, they're all on Snapchat. And now it's all about instant responses and they're tracking how, I've been left on opened or I've been left on delivered. I've been left for this many hours. And as if like they cannot tolerate a pause. They cannot tolerate, you know, someone actually just living their life, managing all the other things they have going on. And they've interpreted that pause as harmful, as hurtful. And I really try to bring that awareness into the conversations I have with these kids, because, you know, there's like the 24-hour rule. Like, you don't need to respond to that email for 24 hours. Like, let it roll over you. Like, really collect your thoughts, really come out of the reactionary or the doing what you think you're supposed to do or saying what you're supposed to say. I think I'm getting better in that area. I'm even getting better at saying, I need time to think about this. Let me get back to you. I had to do that with a client this weekend, and I really, really benefited from it. And it felt really kind. It felt like I was then able to give that client a embodied, grounded, thoughtful response. And not only is that role modeling and boundary setting, but it ended up being just beneficial to the next steps, to the plan that we made.
And it was kind, because you were then able to give a response that was true and authentic, rather than saying yes in the moment, then resenting, having resentment towards the client because it wasn't a decision, right? So the pause is useful in so many areas, and just creating that space, that moment to take a breath, the moment to check in with yourself internally, think about all the things you actually have, actually look at your calendar, actually say, do I want to do this? How is this feeling right now? Or is it going to feel like an obligation? Being authentic, right? Like a pause is very, very powerful. Walking away. Sometimes in confrontation, right? Like, we don't do that even in confrontation, where we get so emotional and we can't just say, I need a minute. Can I come back in 10 minutes and go for a walk, and not view that as rejection?
Well, no. And I think we often, like, our mind and body, or our mind and emotions aren't necessarily always operating at the same speed. So whether your cognitive thoughts are kind of showing up really fast, but your body and your emotions are kind of lagging, or the other way around. Like, maybe those emotions are like leading the charge, and they're very forward facing, like, oh, my hurt, my disappointment. But my logical thought hasn't really like entered the chat per se. So it's also about giving those systems time to sync up and kind of speak or respond, act from a fully regulated system, one that's operating on all fronts.
It's funny when you were talking about the teens, and I think that that's not just teens. I think because such a large percentage of the population has a dysregulated nervous system, that we've all kind of almost slipped into this rejection dysphoria. Right. So, if someone doesn't respond, or someone doesn't like your comment, or someone doesn't do that, or someone responds not how you've anticipated they're going to respond, it's immediately
like a knife through the heart.
Rejection.
Yeah.
Right. Which then you're coming from a place of defensiveness and vulnerability and fear. And so again, taking that moment, just thinking like someone doesn't respond. Oh, maybe they have a life.
Yeah.
Maybe they're doing something.
It's that ego again. It really is.
Yeah. It's so, that's one of the things that the more we get into the people pleasing and talking about it, is that ego component. Right. And that's hard to hear, because a lot of people attach a very egotistical to it. And that's not what we're saying. Right. It's just that vulnerability of ego piece is so huge in all of it.
Well, and it's kind of that, like, I don't know it's, I guess egocentric is the word, like operating from a place of, me first, me as the command center, me as like the main character of this world, of this, because I mean, we are our own main characters, but that's just of our world, not not of everybody
I
else.
also think that is a reflexive response, a primitive reflexive response, right? Survival. So if you are feeling threatened in your nervous system, to go within, you're thinking about yourself and your own survival, right? So I think there is this very primitive draw to that, on top of living in a society that's very me, I focused. So it's, I think it's multidimensional for sure. So in leaving the episode today, we've have a new plan where we kind of leave our audience with questions. So one of the questions I have is, or it's actually more of a call to action, that just over the next couple weeks, try and take a notice of when you're acting nice and when you're acting kind, and just really try and tune into the different feelings in your body when you act out of those two places.
I just want to know, like, what would it look like to include yourself in the definition of kindness? So really taking that internal look at what does it look like to be kind to yourself and to receive kindness.
Yeah, and I would add, what do you notice when you think about that? What comes up? Because I can guarantee there'll be a response to even think.
So you can think about these and either leave us a comment on Spotify. You can also write it into an Apple review, or reach out on Instagram at peoplepleaser.pod. Our DMs are always open to you. We love hearing from you. And we really hope you enjoyed this conversation on the difference between being nice and being kind. And I really hope that you are kind to yourself this year, always. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Once again, this is Corey
and Cindy with the People Pleaser Podcast.
Thank you for supporting the podcast. If you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can find more content from us on Instagram at peoplepleaser.pod. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.